All right, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to talk about Jermell Charlo and Terence Crawford's reaction to his draw that he got with Brian Castano. And let's just say that the feud is on. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Before I get into the subject matter of the video though, please make sure to hit the subscribe button if you've not already subscribed. And also, please like the video, share the video. It goes a long way to helping the channel grow, and it's much appreciated when you do it. So let's get into this. Last Saturday night, there was an absolutely terrific fight that took place between Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano. It was a back and forth fight that wound up resulting in a draw. So it was originally marketed as a fight for the undisputed 154-pound title, but unfortunately there is no undisputed 154-pound title because the guys fought to a draw. I thought that it was an excellent fight. I really don't think that either one of those fighters should get any type of ridicule from that fight because, number one, they were both fighting the best, extremely good competition. Jermell Charlo, there's no shame in catching a draw with Jermell Charlo for Brian Castano because Jermell Charlo is the best 154-pounder that there is, and Brian Castano put up a terrific fight against him. Really got him up against the ropes, did his job when he got him up against the ropes. Same thing for Jermell Charlo in my belief. In my assessment, I don't think that there's anything for him to be ashamed of because Brian Castano is a very difficult fighter. And the way that Brian Castano showed up against not just Teixeira, because Teixeira he beat handily, but the fight that told me that Brian Castano was a real fighter was when he fought Erislandy Lara to a draw. So the fact that he could get a draw against Erislandy Lara, didn't make it too far-fetched that he could do the same thing to Jermell Charlo. So all in all, I thought it was a really good fight. There's a lot of fans that don't necessarily think, I think there's a lot of fans that wanted to see Jermell Charlo lose, and they thought that Brian Castano did enough to pull out the fight, which is, in a fight that close is a reasonable thing to believe. If somebody, I've not heard a lot of people say that they thought that Jermell Charlo won the fight, but I believe that I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, that draw was about the best outcome that you could get from that fight because neither one of those fighters did enough, in my assessment and the assessment of other people, and definitely not the assessment of the judges as a collective, did enough to take the other people's belts. So anyway, after the fight is over though, here comes Terence Crawford, giving his opinion. Now, he's asked what his opinion is, so I probably shouldn't say here comes Terence Crawford, but Terence Crawford and Jermell Charlo had a little bit of a beef going before that fight happened because Jermell Charlo was asked in an interview some questions, and then Jermell brought up the topic of the topic of pound for pound, and specifically brought up Terence Crawford's name and said, hey, Terence Crawford is on the pound for pound list. Look at who he's fought. Look at who I've fought. And you got Terence Crawford way up there in the list. Why aren't I up in the list? Now, I personally thought when Jermell said that Jermell could have found a better example of somebody that didn't deserve to be on the pound for pound list. How he went for Terence Crawford, I was like, I don't really follow that because I think Terence Crawford definitely belongs on that list. But regardless, he said it, and Terence Crawford, I'm sure, heard it because afterwards, Terence Crawford put out on Twitter something to the effect of, see, this is why you're not on the pound for pound list. And, saying something like, yeah, and you got to do better, right? So that was a shot right at Jermell Charlo and saying, and then also he said, Terence Crawford said, he lost the fight and that's done. And, that's it, I'm done. And then he chastised him and said that's why he didn't make the pound for pound list because of fights like this. Now, my take on that is this: the Terence Crawford really needs to stop, because the fact that that Jermell Charlo got a draw doesn't change the fact of what Jermell Charlo said from being the truth. And actually, when he says it's nights like this or things like this, I think that's what he said. Things like this that keeps him off the pound for pound list. My thought is, what things is that? Fighting tough fighters? Because see, if you look at Brian Castano, Brian Castano is the exact type of fighter that Terence Crawford isn't fighting. Brian Castano is a legitimate top 154 pounder. If you looked at the 154 pounders that are left, because pretty much Jermell Charlo cleared out 154 pounds. Like Jarrett Hurd, where's Jarrett Hurd now? Jarrett Hurd is gone. Now he lost to Julian Williams, but Julian Williams lost to Jason Rosario, and Jason Rosario lost to Jermell Charlo. Same thing goes for Tony Harris. Same thing goes for Tony Harrison. Same thing goes for Nathaniel Gallimore. Same thing goes for Goshaw. There is a lot of Erislandy Lara is not around anymore. See, because Erislandy Lara lost to Jarrett Hurd, and Jarrett Hurd, lost. Man, who did Jarrett Hurd lose? Jarrett Hurd lost to J-Rock, right? So all of those, that war that went on over a couple years at 154 pounds, Jermell Charlo wind up being the person that popped out of the top of that. And Brian Castano was also in there, and he managed to be undefeated and get himself a shot at the WBO title and win that title. So that literally the best person at that weight class was Brian Castano, other than Jermell Charlo, or is Brian Castano other than Jermell Charlo, or you see they fight to a draw, you can say they're both two of the top fighters. But what they did was that they fought one another. And so Terence Crawford is sitting up here at 147 pounds, and has fought guys like, I guess got to keep saying it, because it's just who he's fought is so ridiculous. Jeff Horn, from Jeff Horn to Jose Benavidez to Jose Benavidez had literally had a brace on his knee from a shotgun blast to the knee, right? Amir Khan had been knocked out by, how many people? Aegis Kalvanakis. Like, Aegis Kalvanakis is probably the best of the wins that he has at 154 pounds, right? Kell Brook was a shot fighter. Just come on. So for Terence Crawford to say something to Jermell Charlo about, see, this isn't why you're on the pound, this is why you're not on the pound for pound list. It's like, yeah, because I fight real fights. That was the whole point of Jermell Charlo's what Jermell Charlo said. So it's like, even in what Terence Crawford said to him, this is why. Yeah, dude, it is why, and that's why he brought that up to begin with. There are people on the top 10 in the pound for pound list that ain't fighting anybody, that haven't fought anybody, that hasn't fought the competition level that Jermell Charlo has fought. But anyway, the pound for pound list is what it is. Jermell's definitely not going to get on it after this win, and I'm telling you, even if they have a rematch and he wins that, I still think they'll find a way to keep him off. But anyway, that's my take on the situation. You let me know what you think, and with that, I'm out. Peace.